Part 25. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 241. X, I heard that Alexei is a tough bitch. The black-haired man in the cabin said, wiping his hands on his dark blue apron. On the table in front of him, there was a box of dirty and rusty tools. Long-handled pliers, machetes, screwdrivers, pointed awls. Each tool was dirty and sticky, making it hard to tell whether it was engine oil or some terrible blood stain. I wonder how many precious tools our blonde beauty can hold before she lets go? It's so exciting. This man is a very crazy doctor named David. Nicknamed Stitching Freak. He likes to torture prisoners with tools very much, and is also keen on cutting off the limbs of different prisoners and combining them at will. X is a black man with curly hair, thick lips, and a strong body. He wears a very tight silver gray shirt, trousers with straight seams and iron trousers, and a pair of shiny leather shoes on his feet. It is out of tune with the shabby cabin environment around him. David, we are on a tight schedule for this mission, so we don't have time to play sewing games with you, X said. I don't want to play sewing games, today I want to play disassembly games, let's disassemble that Chinese man first. I want to slowly appreciate Alexei's desperate expression. The stitched weirdo David laughed sinisterly. X doesn't like David very much. This guy is a pervert, and X is quite reluctant to be alone with him. X looked at his watch. Abel and the others, should they be here too? At this moment, the ship suddenly shook slightly. X looked back at the closed cabin door. There was no signal they agreed on outside. Not Abel and the others. The ship shook again. X said to David, who was intoxicated with fantasies about how to disassemble the human body, let me see if someone has sneaked onto our ship to steal things again. David acted as if he didn't hear anything, and carefully picked the tools in the toolbox. X pouted, muttered freak in a low voice, opened the cabin door, and walked out. Just as the cabin door was about to close, a foot hooked the door, and then a slender figure flashed into the cabin. The door, clicked, closed. X subconsciously looked back. The cabin was quiet, nothing unusual. He shrugged, turned around, and walked to the bow. The gas lamp hanging on the mast on the deck went out somehow. X looked around and didn't see anyone. The gas lamp was a signal to guide Abel and the others. He had to light the gas lamp. If X looked up at this time, he would find that there was a person climbing upside down on the mast, with his legs hooked on the mast, staring at X's every move. However, he didn't look up. He just took off the gas lamp and lowered his head to check the power supply. At this time, the person hanging on the mast slid down the mast silently. The man covered X's mouth with one hand, and hit him 3 times on the temple with the other hand quickly and forcefully. X fainted instantly. The one climbing up the mast was John Killen. Seeing X faint and sliding to the deck, John Killen's legs instantly loosened the mast, flipped over and landed neatly, supported X's tall body, and then gently laid him down. Without making a sound. After doing all this, he turned his head and looked at the cabin worriedly. The cabin door opened and a head poked out. Brother Lan, are you done? Done. I've also dealt with the people inside, Cheng Ling whispered, let's get him in. They're almost here. The two of them worked together to pull X into the cabin. David, who didn't have time to use his dismantling skills, was tied up tightly and stuffed into the dressing room next door. And X, with his mouth sealed, was tied to an iron chair with his back to the door. In order to avoid the shaking of the waves, the iron chair was directly welded to the hull. After the two arranged everything, they heard the sound of people walking on the deck. John Killen and Cheng Ling looked at each other. Here they come. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 242. Fred walked in front, Abel held Alexei in the middle, and Tom was at the end. The three of them walked onto the dark deck together. The dim gas lamps emitted a bright white light. Fred, who was leading the way, blew a whistle. Alexei, whose wrists were tied and whose arms were curled up against his chest, heard the same whistle in the cabin. Abel then dragged her to the cabin. She was heartbroken at this moment. She was doomed. The lie she made up on the spot was not worth a second thought, as long as they contacted Amos, her fate. I dare not even think about it. Maybe, she shouldn't have followed the man with the same name as the captain to Fengcheng. Or maybe she shouldn't have rescued Zhang Qiun. No. She had done many things she regretted in her life. But the only thing she didn't regret was that God gave her the opportunity to save Zhang Qiun and get to know Zhang Qiun. Abel's whole body was tightly pressed against Alexei's back. Alexei's thigh was injured and he walked with a limp. He was like a pervert, enjoying the friction caused by Alexei's hip twisting and rising when he walked. He leaned over to Alexei's ear and panted slightly, saying, "Little beauty, be honest, otherwise the dagger in my hand will not have eyes." His right hand tightly grasped a dagger, the blade was cold and Alexei could feel the temperature from the blade. Alexei looked at the cabin, what terrible fate was waiting for him there. The door of the cabin opened. A tall figure sat with his back to them deep inside the dark cabin. Fred muttered in a low voice, "X is always so pretentious." She walked in, followed by Abel and Alexei. Fred strode towards the cabin and put his hand on X's shoulder. "Hey, X, we're here, you should stand up to greet us, right?" Fred realized something was wrong at this time. Why is X's arm posture so awkward? The lighting conditions in the cabin were very limited, after all, they were doing murder and robbery. If it was too bright, their every move would easily be seen through the cabin window. Alexei was determined to die, and the moment she stepped into the cabin, she moved. She first leaned her body back and hit Abel's chest, then dived forward with all her strength, and her slender neck like a swan's neck hit the dagger held by Abel directly. When she was about to hit the dagger, Alexei closed her eyes hard. "Goodbye, this humming world, I never want to come again." However, the expected pain did not come. Clang, after a crisp metal collision, her face was pressed against something soft. She opened her eyes in surprise. A strong and thin arm, from bottom to top, blocked between her neck and Abel's dagger. The owner of the arm held the dagger between his middle finger and index finger, and the dagger was held upside down, with the blade hanging on his arm, blocking Abel's dagger. "Who is it?" Alexei looked along the arm. In the darkness, she saw a pair of sparkling eyes. It was the female star with the same name as the captain, Chen Ling. Chen Ling said softly in French, "Jusque que la mort me prenne, until death takes me away." Alexei subconsciously added, "Sinon j'en abandonnerai jamais, otherwise I will never give up." Alexei's eyes widened after the words fell. This sentence is his motto. She, could it be? The changes happened at the same time. Fred on the other side walked to the middle of the cabin. She adapted to the darkness of the cabin and saw clearly, X was unconscious. He was tied to a chair. Fred was about to shout, and a long black thing, with a swift wind, hit her neck. She had no time to dodge, and subconsciously protected her neck with both hands. The black snake-like thing wrapped around her neck, and tied her hands and hands together tightly. It was a belt. The end of the belt was in John Killen's hand, and he swung it hard, and at the same time, his calf swept across. Fred was pulled down by the violent pulling force. Fred fell to the ground. John Killen coordinated his hands and let one end of the belt go around Fred's ankles, and swung it hard, tied it up, and Fred's hands, feet, and neck were tied tightly together by a belt, and he fell to the ground, unable to move. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 243. A series of changes followed one after another, leaving Abel stunned. Before he could recover, Chen-Ling grabbed the long silver hair on the back of Abel's head with his right hand and pulled it back. The dagger held upside down in his left hand simultaneously pushed Abel's dagger away, and was restrained in Abel's arms. Alexei inside one precious space. Alexei's bound hands had room to move. She clenched them together and pushed her right elbow back. Steady and hard, he bumped into Abel's nasty thing that was pushing against him all the way. Chen-Ling heard the sound of the chocolate bar breaking and the egg breaking almost simultaneously. Abel's whole body twitched in pain, and his fingers weakly released the dagger he was holding tightly. The dagger fell towards the ground. Chen-Ling kicked the dagger handle with the toe of her left foot. The dagger flew straight up and rushed towards Alexei, accurately cutting the rope tied around her wrist. Alexei's hands were free, and she grabbed the dagger. After taking off on one leg, the knee of her uninjured leg hit Abel's chest hard. "Don't kill him," Chen-Ling quickly reminded him and rushed out of the cabin. The driver Tom, who was walking at the end of the group, realized something was wrong and immediately ran out of the cabin. He ran wildly on the deck and was about to rush to the dock when Chen-Ling ran out of the cabin. She bent her knees, held the tip of the dagger with one hand, and then raised her hand vigorously. The dagger first drew a beautiful arc, and then whizzed away towards Tom. The dagger was like a flying knife with eyes, piercing Tom's calf hard. Tom instantly dwarfed. He fell to the deck and groaned in pain. John Killen arrived immediately and removed the joints of Tom's arms in twos and twos. Tom's arms were dislocated, like two long rubber gloves filled with water, hanging on both sides of his body. John Killen grabbed his uninjured leg and dragged the wailing man back to the cabin. Since then, all 5 sheepdogs have been imprisoned. David, who was stuffed into the dressing room, was also dragged back to the cabin. John Killen and Chen-Ling worked together to tie the 5 people together. The scarred Alexei supported his body with his uninjured leg and half leaned against the cabin wall. Her green eyes were locked on Chen-Ling, paying close attention to her every move. Finally at this moment, Yu wakes up. He tried to move, but found that he couldn't move. Then he looked at the surrounding environment in a slightly confused manner. His memory still lingered on the moment he checked the gas lights. X looked around him. "My teammates are all here. The doctor is tied up and unconscious." Fred struggled to form a twisted shape so that the belt would not strangle his neck. Tom's pants were stained red with blood and were tied tightly, and his mouth was stuffed with a bulging ball of cloth. His whimpering and moaning were blocked by the ball of cloth. Abel, his face was like gold paper, his eyes were bulging, his body was soaked with sweat, he was incontinent, and he was shaking like leaves in the cold wind. The target person, Alexei, held a dagger in his hand, leaning against the ship's bulkhead and looking to the side. He followed his gaze. He saw a tall and slender figure not far away, a pretty Chinese girl. She was wearing a one-piece black half-sleeved shorts and was whispering something to the people around her. Next to her was a tall, broad-minded Chinese man. He leaned slightly towards the girl and listened intently to what the girl was saying. But X could tell at a glance that this man was not someone to be trifled with. Both of them were looking at themselves. X was unable to speak and could only express his anger at the moment with his eyes. He can't close his mouth. There was a long rope that strangled his mouth. The rope pressed against his tongue and the roots of his teeth, forcing him to grin. The 2 ends of the rope were tied behind his head. The sound of police sirens was heard in the distance. John Killen pointed outside, meaning to guide the police over. Chen-Ling nodded. John Killen wanted to give a few words of advice, but felt it was redundant. He quickly left the cabin and walked toward the deck. However, just as he stepped over the bow of the boat and stepped on the dock planks with his 2 feet, a series of violent and dull banging sounds came from inside the fishing boat. This is the sound of explosives detonating. John Killen's expression changed. He didn't even have time to turn around, but the fishing boat behind him made violent and continuous explosions. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 244. John Killen never expected that there would be such a huge number of bombs at the bottom of the fishing boat. I don't know how the criminals detonated this boat of bombs without any action. The explosion of the bomb was extremely powerful. John Killen was knocked to the ground by the fierce air wave, his throat felt sweet, his ears were in severe pain, and liquid flowed down his ears. Then, a sky-high fire lit up on the sea. John Killen felt as if his whole body was torn apart from the heart by claws. He lay on the ground and roared heartbreakingly at the fishing boat that was completely engulfed by the flames, Cheng Ling. The fishing boat was no longer intact, and the hull was torn into pieces by the huge explosion. The wreckage of the burning ship fell into the sea and the dock. John Killen lay on the wooden board of the dock, his ears buzzing, and his mind was blank. No, Cheng Ling, no. Then, he felt the vibration of running from the deck below. The police arrived. John Killen couldn't hear, but he could tell from the mouth of the policeman who was bending over to help him that he was asking himself, "Captain John, how are you?" John Killen raised his arm with all his strength, pointed at the sea and screamed, "Don't worry about me, hurry up, call the ocean search and rescue team. There may be survivors in the sea." The policeman immediately stood up and took out the walkie-talkie. He could see the policeman's mouth opening and closing, but he couldn't hear any sound. Only the shout in his heart was deafening. "Cheng Ling, you have given me so many surprises. Please, give me another surprise. Please." John Killen clenched his fists and lay on the ground, his face buried deep in the ground. The dock has been immersed in seafood and seawater for years, emitting an unpleasant smell. He felt the heat of the fire and the sea breeze blowing on him. All this was ruthlessly pulling John Killen back from his fantasy. The bomb exploded so quickly. The possibility of her escape was almost zero. At this time, he felt someone squatting beside him. Is it the police, the doctor, or the fisherman on the nearby boat? John Killen had no interest. He vaguely heard the person in front of him calling out, "Brother Lan? How are you, Brother Lan?" John Killen forced himself not to be too excited and not to have hope, so as not to be too disappointed. He lifted his face from the ground tremblingly. Cheng Ling was soaked, her hair dripping, and she was bending over to look at him with a worried look. "Really, alive, Cheng Ling?" John Killen jumped up and hugged the wet Cheng Ling tightly in his arms. He trembled slightly. This kind of relief from a false alarm, this kind of ecstasy of regaining what was lost, all reminded him of one thing. Something he had already noticed but dared not investigate. He couldn't help but like the girl in his arms. This was an emotion he had never had before. Cheng Ling felt John Killen's broad and warm embrace, quietly, without saying a word. Brother Lan was shivering. A drop of warm liquid rolled down her exposed neck. Her body, which had been cold after soaking in the autumn sea water, became warm because of this drop of warm tears. After a while, John Killen forced himself to regain his calm and rationality. He let go of Cheng Ling. There was no abnormality in his black eyes, but his hoarse voice, like gravel, exposed his excitement just now. "Are you hurt?" "Brother Lan, I'm fine," Cheng Ling said softly. She brushed her wet hair behind her head with some annoyance. "It's all my fault. Actually, when I got on the boat, I noticed that the fishing boat was a little abnormally heavy, but I didn't check it carefully. Who knew that old Black X would hide the detonator in his nose? Just now, John Killen left the cabin. X looked for an opportunity and suddenly hit the iron chair hard. His nose bridge was broken by the chair, and blood gushed out of his nose. However, his goal was also achieved, and the switch of the bomb detonator inside his nose was activated. John Killen looked her up and down and found that she only had some scratches on her face. As expected, she was not intact. He was a little embarrassed to face Chen Ling because of his loss of composure just now, so he looked around to cover up. Suddenly, John Killen's heart sank. He did not see Alexei's figure. In that case, Chen Ling was lucky to escape. John Killen asked softly, "Alexei, is she dead?" Chen Ling tilted her head and smiled playfully, "The defector Alexei is dead. But the free man Alexei has been reborn. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment." Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 245. John Killen was slightly startled. He was about to ask, but Chen Ling spoke first, "For safety reasons, please keep her existence a secret for me, Brother Lan." A policeman strode towards them. Chen Ling quickly lowered his voice and said, "Brother Lan, I have to go back to your car, now is a crucial moment for me. Please help me deal with it." John Killen's eyes were gentle, "Okay. But wait a moment." Chen Ling was a little surprised, and saw John Killen grab the collar of his long-sleeved black t-shirt with both hands, pull it up, and take off his clothes. He was left with only a tight black vest, revealing his muscular arms and thin waist. He put the clothes on Chen Ling's neck, helped her get her wet hair out of the clothes, and stuffed something into her palm. It was the car key. Chen Ling's eyes were wide open in surprise, looking at John Killen. Like a little deer. He raised his lips at an imperceptible angle and said softly, "Go ahead, don't forget to turn on the heater. Drive the car away for me, I'll contact you later." Chen Ling put on her clothes in a flash, and before she blushed, she left quickly wearing clothes with his body temperature. The police looked at Chen Ling in surprise, wanting to ask something. John Killen raised his hand to stop his questioning, and whispered, "She is a confidential and important person. Tell all units to let her go quietly. Don't expose her existence." Chen Ling lowered her head and returned to the parking lot, opened John Killen's car door, and turned up the temperature in the car. Waited quietly for a while. The car window was knocked lightly. Chen Ling unlocked the car door, the back door was opened, and Alexei sat in the car all wet. Time went back to a dozen seconds before the explosion. Just as X hit her nose strangely, Chen Ling reacted immediately. She grabbed the toolbox on the table without hesitation and threw it hard at the cabin glass next to Alexei. The glass was shattered instantly, and Chen Ling yelled, "Jump!" Alexei jumped without thinking when he heard Chen Ling's order, just like the reflex he had developed during those training days. Chen Ling held her head with both hands as fast as she could, smashed the glass next to her, and then jumped into the sea. She heard the explosion before she fell into the water. Then, she rushed into the seabed with perfect posture without splashing any water. The sea water weakened the impact of the explosion. Chen Ling swam quickly from the seabed to Alexei like a flexible shark, took her to the shore 20 meters away from the exploded fishing boat, and dragged her to the shore. Chen Ling quickly said, "Come find me later." After that, she turned around and jumped into the sea and swam back. Alexei was staring at Chen Ling and John Killen in the distance. Later, he noticed that Chen Ling left the dock and walked towards the parking lot, so he followed her and got in the car. Asterisk. Chen Ling looked back at Alexei. The seawater and her blood soaked the back seat. Chen Ling thought, "The first thing to do when I get home is to buy a new car for my misophobic brother Lan." Alexei closed the car door and stared at Chen Ling with a pair of green eyes. "Who are you?" Chen Ling said in a somewhat arrogant tone, "Why, after half a year, have you forgotten all the discipline?" Alexei sat up straight with a conditioned reflex, and saluted the mobile team with a fist. "Captain. Team member Alexei reports to you." Chen Ling put away the arrogance she had just pretended to be, and said with a chuckle, "At least you haven't forgotten. Are you really my captain? How did you do it? Is plastic surgery so awesome now?" Alexei asked questions like a machine gun. "Hush, be quiet for a while." Chen Ling pointed to the skirt that was cut by the dagger on the back seat. "Use that piece of cloth to bandage your wound. I need to drive the car to a quiet place first. There are very important things waiting for me to do." Chen Ling started the car, and Alexei tore the green cloth in the back seat and tied up the wound on his thigh. This emergency bandaging method can restore her short-term running ability. Local residents, local police, fire brigade, ambulance, all rushed to the dock. Chen Ling drove the car and left in the opposite direction of the flow of people. After leaving the large crowd, she started to speed up. 5 or 6 minutes later, she drove to a residential area in the suburbs of Jinchi. She found a parking space on the side of the road, parked the car, turned on the computer on the co-pilot, and entered the unlock password. She found a person marked as Lucifer in the Shepherd software and started a private chat. A few minutes later, Amos's special communicator on the other side of the ocean received a message from the sheepdog Fred. "Fred, Master, the mission is complete. The defector Alexei has been killed in the explosion. 5 sheepdogs were sent for this mission, and 4 have died. No identity was revealed. Please give instructions for the next step. Over. Report completed." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 246. Alexei tied up his injured leg and leaned forward in the gap between the 2 seats in the front row to watch Chen Ling operate. Chen Ling hacked into an H-Rangers mission database and found the records from January this year. Browsing from top to bottom, she quickly found the folder she needed, opened the file, found an inconspicuous document, and clicked it. Name, Copperfield Denise. Age, 26 years old. Nationality, Germany. Time, place, cause and treatment of death, January 25, 2023, Morocco. Arms criminal reselling girl smuggler on dark web, shot in the brain and heart, buried in Ulu Cemetery on the outskirts of Rabat, tombstone number GE 5498. Name of survivor, relationship to deceased, none. Identity authentication information, blood type DNA, etc. B blood type. The DNA information list is as follows. Gene lattice site, AMLXP 22.-223YP11.2. Chen Ling directly retrieved the blood type and DNA storage data in the identity authentication information. Then, Chen Ling cut out the program, searched for Alexei in the Kali software background information database, and found her blood type and DNA information. She swapped the identification information between Alexei and the dead female villain, Copperfield Denise. Alexei clapped his hands. "Oh my God! My captain! You are still so smart. Did you change my information?" While Chen Ling was familiar with operating the computer to save data, he replied, "Amos is very cautious. He must verify and confirm your death information. I guess he might let me mail part of your bones to DNA library match. This woman named Copperfield Denise is a devil. At the beginning of this year, I was on another mission in Morocco, and she happened to touch the muzzle of my gun, and I took care of her easily. It was not a big deal. I just recorded the basic information about the incident and her death information in the background storage folder. DNA information can detect race, gender, and hair color. If some bones are mailed back, in addition to matching DNA information, the age can also be detected based on the bones. It was also out of this consideration that Chen Ling looked for information about Copperfield Denise to replace Alexei. European, blonde, young, female, it matches Alexei's information very well. It's completely possible to hide the truth. The admiration in Alexei's green eyes almost overflowed. "Oh, my captain, God, I admire you so much. Stop your useless flattery and prepare to accept my punishment later," Chen Ling said ruthlessly. Alexei pupil earthquake. The ruthless captain is back. Chen Ling operated the computer and listed Alexei's mistakes one by one in a tone of hatred. First, you have successfully escaped from the H-Rangers. Why are you still leaving bullets in the wild boar forest? It is only a matter of time before someone finds you because you are so careless. Second, you could have chosen a more covert way to get close to me, but you were eager for success, or maybe too curious, so you chose the Mu family. This is also due to the fact that the Mu family's interrogation was not rigorous enough, but the Mu family must be more cautious. Use the International Portrait Collection database to match your information. You have been silently executed by the sheepdog. While listening to Chen Ling detailing his mistakes, Alexei could not help but recall the fear of being punished by the captain. Alexei couldn't help but tremble. Third, you are too close to Zhang Qiun, Chen Ling sighed. Alexei suddenly stopped shaking. "Captain, I can't control myself. Really, it's not me making excuses, I think I have found my true love." Chen Ling had already suspected this. She was not very surprised. "Are you sure? Maybe your relationship is destined to be fruitless." Alexei showed a sad smile. "I remember, there is a saying in China dash." She switched to Chinese and said, "I don't know where love comes from, but love is deep. When I met Zhang Qiun, I suddenly understood the sentence. So, no matter what the result is, I want to give it a try. If I give up now, I think when the day of death comes, my heart will be filled with regret. My soul will not be able to rest in peace." Chen Ling stopped typing on the keyboard, turned around, looked at Alexei seriously, and read her micro-expressions. Alexei had never shown such a look to any man. Chen Ling asked, "Zhang Qiun likes you?" Alexei shook his head. "I don't know, maybe, maybe not, I can't tell." Chen Ling took a breath. "Alexei, from now on, I will protect you. You don't have to be afraid. I will give you a safe and legal identity. You can breathe the free air as much as you want. Go where you want, live your life and pursue the one you love." Alexei's green eyes were filled with tears of gratitude. Chen Ling waved his hand and turned back to continue working on the computer. "However, none of your punishments will be reduced." Alexei froze. The soul travels through the 18th line. The female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 247. After being silent for a while, Alexei spoke again. "Captain, Lord, Amos, has he replied?" Chen Ling shook his head. It's impossible for him to reply so quickly. As governor now, Amos must have a lot to deal with every day. He wouldn't pay too much attention to such a trivial matter as hunting down a defector. "Captain, are you really going to pretend to be Fred the shepherd? What if you are discovered?" Alexei was worried. Chen Ling smiled slightly. "Do you think it's easy to send a shepherd dog to China? I just counted it in the list. He doesn't have many shepherd dogs now, and according to Fred's background information, it has been 2 years since I sneaked into China. The 5 shepherd dogs who came to execute you. Except for David, the other 4 are lurking in different areas of China. They were transferred to Maple City by a temporary team. Before they met, they didn't even know each other's gender, age, and appearance. Unlike our H-Rangers, the shepherds deal with things that are not on the table. Most of the shepherds may not know each other. They will also keep other members strictly confidential when they go on missions. I believe that Amos will not call Fred back to the United States easily. As long as there is no new mission, other sheepdogs will not come to Fred. To say the least, if I really need to meet other sheepdogs on a mission, they won't know my identity. This is for confidentiality reasons. If all the members of the shepherd dog group know each other, then as long as one of the shepherd dogs is a traitor or rebels later, then all the shepherd dogs can be killed in one fell swoop. Alexei breathed a sigh of relief. Seeing that Chen Ling was still flipping through the Kali software, she asked curiously, "Captain, what are you doing now?" Chen Ling is checking Jichen Jiao. During dinner, she saw that Jiang's father had been uneasy. Based on various things, she speculated that something might have happened to Jichen Jiao. If it is really Amos's handiwork, then it must be handled by the shepherd dog. So, with the attitude of giving it a try, she checked the sheepdog backstage. But, should we tell Alexei Jichen Jiao's identity now? After Chen Ling hesitated for a moment, she decided to keep it a secret for now. So, she evaded the important point and said, "A few days ago, a reporter who reported that Amos took over the drug trafficking business died. Now the American government has announced that the reporter died accidentally after a fight due to alcoholism. But I feel that this is probably the work of the shepherd dog. In addition, there is a reporter who has also lost his whereabouts. I want to check their mission files and chat records in their backend to see if I can get any unexpected results." Alexei blurted out, "Captain, are you referring to Jichen Jiao?" Chen Lingtong paused for a moment, stopped typing on the keyboard, and looked back at Alexei in the back row. This time it was really beyond Chen Ling's expectation. Alexei explained, "This afternoon, when Zhang Qiun and I were avoiding the shepherd dogs, I asked him why he came to me. He said that he overheard his father at home saying that Jichen Jiao was missing in California. His guess was indeed correct." Chen Ling's heart sank. But more importantly, then why does Zhang Qiun pay attention to the name Jichen Jiao? As far as I know, Zhang Qiun knows nothing about his mother. Alexei secretly screamed, "Oops. Another reason for punishment." "Well, it was me. I saw the photo on Zhang Qiun's phone screensaver. It was a photo of him as a child. I had seen the same photo in Jichen Jiao's photo album. I couldn't help it, so I asked him, 'Do you know Jichen Jiao?'" Alexei's voice became lower and lower. Chen Ling imagined Zhang Qiun's scene at Jiangzhen and deduced that he already knew that Jichen Jiao was his mother. No wonder Zhang Qiun didn't stay at Jiangzhai, but went to find Alexei. Chen Ling nodded, "Very good, not bad. You just earned yourself another punishment." "Ah. I knew it." Alexei sighed. Chen Ling turned around and continued searching in the software. At this moment, Shepard's backend archive database is like an open library to Chen Ling. The sheepdog only needs to record the tasks, which are like books coded according to time and the name of the protagonist of the event. Chen Ling only needs to use computer language to search for the keywords she needs, and she can find all the information related to the keywords in the library. Soon, she found several books about reporter. The name of the group with the freshest date that launched an operation against journalists was, Assassination of the Uncrowned King. Westerners call journalists the Uncrowned King, which means praising journalists for their bravery and fearlessness. But here, the sheepdog is full of irony. Chen Ling clicked on the dialog box. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 248. She quickly browsed through the chat content, sorted out her thoughts, and restored the facts. The black reporter was indeed assassinated by the shepherd dog. They created the illusion that the reporter was drunk, poured a lot of high-concentration alcohol into him, and then brutally beat him to death. However, when the shepherd dog was dealing with this reporter, he found that he had recently been in contact with another very sensitive reporter, who was also the focus of the owner's attention, Jichen Jiao. And Jichen Jiao was in California at the time. The shepherd dogs of the assassination of the uncrowned king action team were so happy. This is a very fat big fish. As long as Jichinjayo is caught, their master will definitely reward them well. They found the hotel where Jichinjayo stayed. However, Jichinjayo found some mercenaries who secretly protected her from nowhere. The shepherd dog did not dare to make too much action. After all, this is the owner's territory. If they made too much noise and fought with the mercenaries with real guns and bullets, it would cause strong negative news, and the public would definitely accuse the owner of poor management. Then, even if Jichinjayo was caught, the owner would not be happy, and might even give them severe punishment. After patiently waiting for a day, they found out that Jichinjayo was about to take a plane to leave the United States. This was a good opportunity. The shepherd dog sat in the car, waiting for Jichinjayo to leave the hotel by car. On the way to the airport, they would find an opportunity to attack. On the day of departure, Jichinjayo called a taxi. The shepherd dogs followed the taxi. Unexpectedly, the taxi driver was not an ordinary person. He was smart enough to find the shepherd dogs tracking and started racing in the city. Moreover, the taxi driver had very good driving skills. The three shepherd dogs' cars behind chased him relentlessly, surrounded and blocked half of the city, and did not let them catch up. After chasing for more than 10 minutes, the taxi turned into a rather chaotic neighborhood and disappeared. It really disappeared without a trace, including the person and the car. The sheepdogs surrounded the area and dug deep, but they couldn't find any trace of Jichinjayo. It was as if he had evaporated into thin air. The sheepdogs didn't dare to report this to their owners. They wanted to secretly search for Jichinjayo's whereabouts and tell their owners when they found him. But until today, they still haven't found him. In the records, Chengling found that someone had raised doubts. In the neighborhood not far from where Jichinjayo disappeared, Nolan, the current captain of the H Rangers, was on a mission nearby. The sheepdogs didn't dare to question Nolan without solid evidence. They didn't dare to report this to their owners. The sheepdogs of assassination of the uncrowned king could only act secretly. They were divided into two groups. One group continued to look for Jichinjayo, and the other group secretly watched Nolan's every move. Asterisk. Captain, could it be Nolan who saved Jichinjayo? Alex asked. Chengling pondered for a long time and didn't give a definite answer. She shook her head. I don't know. Nolan did know that Jichinjayo was his friend. But Nolan was aloof and arrogant, and he always kept his distance from everything that did not concern him. There was no need for him to risk being punished by his master to save Jichinjayo. Unless Jichinjayo went to California to find Nolan. What if Jichinjayo really went to find Nolan? Why did she look for Nolan? Chengling guessed a possibility. Zhang Zhenqiu and Jichinjayo have been in contact. When Jiang's father talked to his wife about his son's recent situation, he mentioned herself. Jichinjayo was a bit romantic, and she might doubt the identity of the actor Chengling. What would she do? Go to America to verify. To verify whether the death of the special engineer Chengling was true. No news about Jichinjayo now is the best news. Can Nolan be trusted? Chengling felt a little unsure. She didn't dare to contact Nolan rashly, nor did she dare to go to him to inquire. The shepherd dog was still keeping an eye on Nolan. What should I do? She needed to calm down and organize her thoughts, find a breakthrough as soon as possible, and find a way to find Jichinjayo. I hope Jichinjayo is safe. Thinking of this, Chengling put away the computer and started the car. Captain, where are we going? Chengling smiled. Have you always wanted to ask me how Zhang Qiun is now, but you are afraid that if you ask, I will increase your punishment? You have been holding it back for a long time, right? Alex sighed. Captain, you are like this, I think of the old days again. Sometimes I wonder if you have a pair of eyes that can see through other people's thoughts. It's really terrible. In front of you, I always feel naked. Naked? Then I am quite lucky, Cheng Ling teased. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. I'll take you to the hospital to visit your sweetheart. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Bulletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 249. Alexis looked at Cheng Ling's back, a little stunned. It's really the captain. It's completely another person. From the beginning, the captain has been deliberately telling herself in the way she used to talk to herself, that she is the captain. If not, Alexis would not be able to see the slightest clue from her appearance. Alexis slowly calmed down from the boiling, nervous and unbelievable state. Captain, you definitely didn't have plastic surgery. Your skin condition is like that of a person who has just turned 20. Plastic surgery will leave traces. What happened to you? Alexis asked cautiously. I saw the obituary posted by Nolan on the internet. Alexis, it's not that I deliberately avoided your question, it's really complicated to explain this matter. Cheng Ling tapped the steering wheel with her fingers. I will tell you later. I don't tell you, not because I don't trust you. Alexis clenched his fists and whispered, Captain, are you very angry that I ran away from the team without permission? Cheng Ling was silent for a while. If you are talking about the captain of the H Rangers, you did violate the discipline. But selfishly, you just did something I couldn't do. But, I didn't tell you anything about my desire to be free. Are you worried about me? Alex asked. Of course I am worried, Cheng Ling said slowly, but you didn't tell me, which proves that you are a qualified agent. I am relieved. I am not angry. Alex breathed a sigh of relief. The captain didn't blame himself. It's not that she didn't trust the captain, but because the captain's identity is too special. The captain is the adopted daughter of the Master Amos. Cheng Ling glanced at the silent Alex through the rearview mirror and guessed what she was thinking at the moment. There is something I didn't remember to tell you. Strictly speaking, I have died once. It was Amos who did it. So, he is my enemy now. Cheng Ling's cold and transparent voice sounded in the car. Ah! Amos did it? Died once? Alize felt that her head was getting bigger. She wanted to ask more questions, but she heard music coming from the passenger seat. It was Cheng Ling's phone. Cheng Ling fumbled with one hand to take out her phone from her bag and glanced at it. It was John Killen. After she answered the call, she clicked on the hands-free mode and put the phone on the middle shelf. Brother Lan. Well, are you almost at the Central Hospital? John Killen did not call her name. It must be that there were people around him, so it was not so convenient to talk. Cheng Ling looked out the window. Yes. I think, in case you have a friend who needs to see a doctor now, Luz Haifei from the cardiovascular department is my old comrade in arms. I have already greeted him. In case you and your friends need to bandage your wounds or something, you can go directly to him. He won't ask questions, let alone call the police to cause trouble for you. When doctors in major hospitals in China treat gunshot wounds, knife wounds, or serious assault injuries, they will quietly call the police. Brother Lan is really careful. Cheng Ling thought. John Killen continued to explain, in addition, if you or your friends want to visit John Kyun, go to single room 521 on the 5th floor of Building B outside the ward. You can prove your identity to the armed police and bring your friends in to visit him. One last thing, I ask someone to prepare 2 sets of clothes at the parking fee window of the City Central Hospital. They are both sportswear. Don't forget to take them. Cheng Ling said, thank you, Brother Lan. How is the situation over there? At this time, Cheng Ling heard from the receiver that someone was calling from John Killen in the distance. Commander Zhang. John Killen raised his hand and then spoke faster, These 5 people are involved. There are many Chinese espionage cases, foreign infiltration cases, and crimes such as inciting the public on the internet. It was only announced to the outside that the fishing boat illegally stored explosives for blasting fish, and the explosion was caused by improper storage. The subsequent matters need to be strictly confidential. I am afraid that there will be too many people and I need to deal with it personally. I am afraid that I will not be able to get away for a while. So, please help take care of Kiun with your friends. Don't worry, Brother Lan, Chen Ling said in a clear voice. In addition, if you need any help from me, a text message or a phone call will do, please tell me. Okay. Then keep your phone open. John Killen agreed happily. Chen Ling breathed a sigh of relief. Brother Lan is not the kind of person who is fake polite. This is too easy, she doesn't have to bother to guess whether he is in trouble now. Sincerity and frankness are the necessary qualities for close people to interact. Then I'll hang up. If there is any problem at the hospital, please contact me at any time. Goodbye. Goodbye. Chen Ling clicked the screen and hung up the phone. Alex leaned forward, his face almost touching Chen Ling's shoulder. She smiled mischievously. Hey, there's something wrong with the cold-blooded devil. The soul travels through the 18th line, the female agent is killing crazy in the entertainment. Author, Buletin Yehoyun Li. Chapter 250. Chen Ling ignored Alexei. John Killen's call reminded her of something. Other brothers know to worry about their younger brothers, but what about her own brother? She picked up the phone again, found her brother's phone, and turned on the speaker. Beep. Hey? Xiao Ling, why did you call me? Did you complete the mission? Have the bad guys been caught? Asked Brother Cheng. Oh, no, the bad guys haven't been caught. Ah. You can't be, Brother Cheng shouted exaggeratedly. How could someone escape from you? These bad guys are really good. Chen Ling. No one escaped, Chen Ling said, they are all dead. The eldest brother breathed a sigh of relief, holding the phone and saying to Cheng's father, Cheng's mother, and Cheng's younger sister in the room, don't worry. It's okay. Xiao Ling said the bad guys didn't escape, they are just dead. The eldest brother paused. All dead. The eldest brother realized it later and raised his voice. Don't panic, I will contact and arrange for you a few gold medal lawyers who specialize in criminal cases. By the way, can you use the special commissioner status that Commander Zhang gave you? You kid, how can you not know the severity of your actions? It wasn't me, they killed themselves, Chen Ling said. Also, the eldest brother breathed a sigh of relief, you don't have to be responsible, right? Ah, this is the current situation, Chen Ling said. That's good. Okay, you continue to be busy, I still have to continue reading novels. Well, you should quickly deal with the things over there, and quickly write, don't keep readers waiting for you to update. No more, hang up. The phone rang with a beep 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 sound. Chen Ling. So ruthless. Why do novelists have to cover their vests, especially not let acquaintances read their books? This is the reason. Urging for updates crossing the second dimension, it has become physical. Tisk. Alexei couldn't help but smile, watching Chen Ling mutter something and throw the phone on the passenger seat. So, in front of his family, the captain is like this. It feels quite cute. We are here. Chen Ling looked up. The gate of Jinchi Central Hospital is just in front. Chen Ling received 2 large bags from the parking lot attendant. Each bag contained a brand new set of sportswear. After parking the car, the two put on the sportswear in the car, both put on the sportswear hats, and got out of the car. There was a soldier in camouflage uniform waiting at the exit of the parking lot. After seeing Chen Ling, he saluted. The soldier said in a loud voice, "Excuse me, are you from Commander Zhang?" Chen Ling nodded, "Yes." "Then please follow me, Dr. Lu is waiting for you in the clinic. Thank you for your hard work. Chen-Ling and Alexei followed the soldier and walked towards the outpatient building. It was dark, but the hospital was always brightly lit. Alexei walked with a limp, and Chen-Ling helped her into the clinic. Dr. Lu really didn't ask a single unnecessary question. He just asked Alexei if he had any allergic reactions, any special diseases, and other routine questions as usual, without any other words or unnecessary expressions. Alexei had many injuries, and the only difficult one was the dagger wound on the outside of his thigh. The doctor cleaned the wound and sewed it with 12 stitches. After tying the bandage, taking the medicine list written by the doctor, thanking the doctor, the two followed the soldiers to Jang Kyun's ward. Pushing open the door of the ward, they saw Jang Kyun with a bandage wrapped around his head, lying peacefully on the bed. A doctor was bending over to pry open his eyes. Hearing the door open, the doctor turned around. "Hello, doctor, I am a friend of the injured." Chen-Ling stepped forward. "Can I ask about the current situation of the injured?" The doctor subconsciously looked at the guard in the room. The guard nodded. The doctor then replied, "The patient's injury is not serious. He has a mild concussion. 5 stitches were needed on the forehead wound. Some tissues have contusions, etc., which are not serious. Please note that the patient cannot eat within 12 hours. The patient may feel dizzy and vomit after waking up. Be careful not to let him choke on his own vomit. There was an unhealed wound on the abdomen before, and it was also torn open. I reprocessed it. Be careful not to get the wound wet." "Thank you, doctor, we got it. The drip will be finished in about 3 hours. After the drip is finished, please press the call button to call the nurse to change," the doctor added. Chen-Ling listened carefully, but Alexei kept looking at Jang Kyun on the bed. Because the injured part happened to have hair, the doctor shaved Jang Kyun's slightly long short hair for suturing purposes, and he looked more energetic. Alexei also lost half of his hair. The two looked like a kind of embarrassed and funny tacit understanding. Jang Kyun should have given instructions. After the doctor finished explaining, the guard also followed the doctor out of the door. Soft yellow light shone on the bed. Chen-Ling and Alexei stood by the bed, looking at Jang Kyun. Just like looking at the body of a deceased person. Chen-Ling sat on the chair next to her and was about to ask Alexei to sit down as well. At this moment, she realized that Alexei looked quite embarrassed. Alexei was famous for his love of beauty and cleanliness. At this moment, his face was dirty, with band-aids on his left and right, and his hair was half cut short and messy. Chen-Ling pointed to the bathroom in the corner and said, "Go wash your face and clean up. I'll be watching here." Okay. Alexei went into the bathroom. At this time, Chen-Ling heard the long breathing on the bed suddenly become rapid. Jang Kyun woke up. He lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling in a daze. It took him a long time to react, and suddenly he remembered everything. He turned around and saw Chen-Ling standing by the bed. "Big sister," Jang Kyun almost shouted. Then, he sat up with lightning speed, reached out to pull out the drip, and shouted, "Big sister. Laura is in danger. Go save her."